you asked me the question, how do we connect to our inner voice? And I say, Leslie and my friends, go to your heart. Go right into your heart. You know where your heart is. And in your heart is the treasure. And in your heart is your goodness.
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions. Welcome back to Women We Should Know, the podcast where we consistently bring you the faces, the stories, the voices of women who are coloring outside of the lines, women who defy the status quo by refusing to get into boxes that were created by someone else, women who are courageously forging new paths and lighting the way so that other women know how to follow and come and find their own great light. It is always a privilege to be with you in this podcast and with the women that I have the immense pleasure of speaking with. And we have just one today. Best-selling author and speaker, Agapi Stassinopoulos, inspires audiences around the world. In her newest book, Speaking with Spirit, 52 Prayers to Guide, Inspire, and Uplift You, Agapi presents a non-denominational guide to harnessing this power of prayer in your life and using it to find connection, peace, and gratitude. I will tell you, I have this book by the side of my bed, and every evening I open it up to wherever it falls. And it is always poignantly exactly on point to where I am in that day. It's a lovely book. Agapi is currently conducting workshops for Thrive Global, a company founded by her sister Ariana Huffington, to help change the way we work and live. She has spoken to and conducted meditations at many organizations and companies. Just a few of those include L'Oreal, Pandora, Google, Nike, Museum of Modern Art, Women's Health Magazine, Paul Mitchell, and Hearst Communications. I'm sure you've heard of most of those. Agapi divides her time between New York and Los Angeles and was born and raised in Athens, Greece. She trained in London at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art and received her master's degree in psychology from the University of Santa Monica. Her two earlier books on the Greek archetypes, Gods and Goddesses in Love and Conversations with the Goddesses, were each turned into PBS specials. Now, that's not a small thing to have accomplished. So without further ado, I am ever so pleased to welcome Agapi Stassinopoulos. How are you, Agapi?
Thank you so much, dear Leslie. And thank you for all you're doing to shed the light to women who are, as you said, out of the box. I love that, who are coloring outside the lines. I was certainly raised by a mother who colored outside the lines and followed on her footsteps. My sister and I always credit my mother for her amazing path she really carved for me and Ariana with education, but most of all with the fundamental principle, the trust for life, meaning that life is for you, so that you don't have to live on a fight or flight response. You can live and feel safe because life is for you.
That is beautiful. Now, being a big fan of origin stories, as I have always been, you write a lot about your mother and how she was the first person to show you that there is a higher path and offer you an understanding that this is a benevolent universe. What can you say to us about how she inspired you in this specific way?
Well, I was raised in Athens, Greece, by two amazing parents. It was my mother who raised us after she separated from my father. But my father was equally amazing. He was a journalist, a Greek journalist, and he fought in the Second World War through journalism and caught by the Germans and survived 1.5 years of the concentration camps. And there is a reason why I say that story, which I will come to later. But I think what happened with my mother is once she left my father, she became so completely dedicated and devoted to her two daughters. It was like her mission in life. She didn't have a career, but she had these two human beings that she said it was her God-given vocation to raise us. So she raised us with tremendous unconditional love, tremendous appreciation of which each one of us so unique and so different, Ariana and I. And she just absolutely empowered us with our specific gifts. She never compared us to each other, ever, ever. And that was huge. And then I think what I share most of the time, Leslie, is that my mother taught us by example. She didn't teach us by telling us what she was going to teach us. So when there were adversities and difficulties, and there are endless stories that I have in Speaking with Spirit, and my book before that, Wake Up to the Joy of You, and my book before that, Unbinding the Heart, which was a lot about my mother. It was like she always had a solution. And when, for example, we didn't have enough money to pay the rent, she would invite everybody for dinner and cook an amazing meal and make us feel like we were abundant. So she always made us feel that there was plenty in the midst of not having. I never felt that I was, we were raised in a one small bedroom apartment in Athens, Greece. She took me to the Royal Academy and I studied acting. She took Ariana to Cambridge and studied economics. And she made it all happen because, as I say in the book, in the preface, and I have this beautiful passage, which I think I'm just going to read it because, when you write something, you work on it so that it gives you the message. And so, I say, every day she demonstrated how to offer and receive at the same time. This instilled in us a belief that something far beyond our physical reality is always present and supporting us. I have drawn in this unshakable source of trust all my life. She never rushed to solutions. She trusted that spiritual guidance could never be hurried. My mother's wisdom was remarkable to experience and absorb, and I know it allowed her to stay calm and faithful in the face of great adversity. So I would see her sitting in the living room, and it looked like she was doing nothing. And over time, I realized that this was a time of spiritual connection. In quiet reflection, she seemed to be drawing upon something deep within herself. She was listening for guidance and direction as she orchestrated various aspects in her lives. She always turned that help and belief would come her way, and indeed it did. You see, part of the thing that has happened right now is that we have forgotten that we are always connected. Yes. And we give over to our fear, our anxiety, and we live hectic, busy lives, thinking that if we did more, if we achieved more, if we were recognized more, we will be connected. But that is not so, because connection doesn't happen in doing. Connection happens by turning inward, finding your stillness, finding your connection. And right when you don't know, that's where prayer comes in, where you ask the benevolent guide in you, the God in you, whatever you want to call it. And please, to our listeners right now, connect with the name that is connected inside of you. Is it God? Is it your higher intelligence, your higher power, the universe, the I am, the big blob in the sky, the cells that are breathing you, your breath, whatever it is, my friends, there is something larger in us that is breathing us and giving us life, that is making this heart pump, that is making this body move, and it is forever an energy that we've all experienced from birth to death. If we didn't have it, we would be dead. So to honor that is the first step to knowing that you are not alone. And that if I had one thing to tattoo in my forehead, I would say, God is my partner. And for me, God is this benevolent, generous, abundant, universal energy that lives in me as Agapi. And if I partner with that, it will use me, Agapi, to uplift me, to elevate me, and to give of my gifts to help other human beings awaken.
That is beautiful. There are many points in there. There's a lot to unpack there, Agapi. One thing that I really appreciate you speaking to is we don't all call God the same name.
Yeah.
There's God, there's the higher source. I love the giant blob. Of course, I'm sure there are some people who do speak with the giant blob. But in addition to that, whatever we call God, you speak about our inner voice. Now, I'm a huge believer in my inner voice. I don't know if I could put on my shoes in the morning without my inner voice.
I love it.
Honestly, how can a person connect with, learn to hear their inner voice and learn to trust it?
Well, exactly. It's practice, that great that great story. There's a man in New York City and he stops another man and he says, "Excuse me, sir, which is the way to the Carnegie Hall?" And the other man says, "Practice, practice, practice." So obviously, if we are out of touch and we haven't been practicing listening to the voice shuts off.
Yes.
I wake up and maybe I'm not feeling as good. I didn't sleep well. Maybe I had a bad dream and my day is like, oh, would I be able to get everything done on time? Now I have a book I'm promoting. There's a lot of shoots that come in. And then if I take a minute and I go, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I'm alive, that I'm well, that I have a message, that I connect to my heart. You see,
yes.
You said, you asked me the question, how do we connect to our inner voice? And I say, Leslie and my friends, go to your heart. Go right into your heart. You know where your heart is. And in your heart is the treasure. And in your heart is your goodness. And if I ask you all right now to remember a time when you were young, when you were a little kid, or you were in your 6 or 7 or 8, and you felt connected. Do you know, Leslie, that every single person tells me stories of when they felt connected? That they were—
That's beautiful.
They were running in somebody said, oh, when my dad took me canoeing, and I remember looking at the lake and I felt this beautiful energy. Somebody else said, well, I was sitting in the port and I remember the wind and I felt something alive in me. Or I was a little girl and I remember my mother reading me a story and I felt her love and I felt connected. It can be a tiny little thing. And I'm going to ask you now, Leslie, do you remember a time when you were little that you felt connected?
The first one that comes back to mind is sitting with my grandpa on his farm and him telling me about the trees and the fish and the plants. And he was an expert gardener.
Oh, where were you?
I was in Oklahoma at that time, or that's where he lived.
In the farm?
He didn't live at the farm, but he had a farm. He had a separate home.
And how old were you?
Oh, at that moment that I just saw in my mind, probably 7 or 8.
There you go. So I say to people when they remember that incident, I say, let's take that experience and let's take that little Leslie who knows her wisdom, who is connected, and let's take that little girl or that little boy and hold their hand and walk with them. Because Leslie, what happens is we grow up and then the adults start to tell us, don't do this, don't say this, don't be that, be like that. And the veils come and the beliefs come and our heart shuts down. And then we fall in love. And maybe that love doesn't work out. And maybe we get hurt. And then our heart shuts down again. And then we go to have a career like I did with acting. And that didn't happen. But through the grace of God, because my career wasn't happening and the movie I came to Los Angeles to do didn't work out, I turned to spirit. I didn't believe in God as much, but I had a mother who since the age of 12 taught me yoga, meditation, and I saw her connection. Not, as I said, not through church. That was not her path. Her path was more on a global scale. It was more, it wasn't like one tradition. And at our home, we had, Catholics, Jewish people, Muslim people. In London, we would have Lebanese people, Middle Eastern people, Greek people, Presbyterian. It didn't matter to her what religion.
A great home, obviously.
It was like invite the people, And so what happens is we shut off our heart. And Leslie, I was on the Today Show a few days ago, and Hoda, whom I love, said to me, how did you know your spirituality was a calling for you to teach? And I said, there was I went on the spiritual path and I read this amazing book called Autobiography of a Yogi, and it opened up my chakra.
Didn't so many of us start there? That's a wonderful book.
It's an amazing book of where it takes you into the transcendent, into the eternal. Yes. And then through my experiences, I learned of the light. I found my teacher in Los Angeles, John Roger. I studied at the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness. In Los Angeles is the center, but the teachings are inside of me. I was very blessed to have this amazing teacher who helped me open my heart. And I remember I was at a seminar because he did many seminars, many sharings. And I remember as he was sharing with people, he helped them get freer and unlock the chains that would lock them up inside their heart. One after the other, people would find their joy and their love and start to laugh and start to feel happier, freer, and the burdens would lift from their shoulders. And I remember sitting in the back of the room and I honestly felt my heart was exploding. And at that moment, I said, oh my God, I am my heart. I am my heart. There is no separation. My body is in my heart. My heart is in my body. And that's when I wrote down and I said, my heart unbound. And I wrote this book, Unbinding the Heart, which was my third book, but it was a book to tell my story. Because most people said to me, how did you become you? And I said, well, let me just tell you, I wrote all about it. And I continue to write about it because it is through the experience of our own and other people. Like if you tell me that experience with your grandfather, I was already there seeing little Leslie, happy, protected, safe. So that I would take that experience, amplify it, own it, embody it, and you walk in this incredible awareness that you are connected to everything and everyone, and you are connected to your God, and you go to sleep with that presence, and you wake up with that presence, and he talks to you, and you have this dialogue, and you have this conversation, and you say, I don't know what to do right now, and he says, sit down and read something, or go out for a walk, or call so and so, or leave this meeting. This meeting is depleting you. Listen, if you were talking to your beloved or your child or your lover or your significant other, you wouldn't just rush it. You would just, if you wanted to explain something, you would really take time. You put your phones down. You take off your to-do list, and then you come present in your heart and you communicate. That's the interaction with God and spirit. To me, I call it Speaking with Spirit, the book, because it's not thinking with spirit. It's speaking with spirit. So you speak it, and then you listen. And then as you listen, you write down your guidance. And I think, Leslie, the problem has started because we do not really think that we are worthy of the interaction and the real connection with the divine.
Absolutely.
We think we have to prove it. We think we have to work it. And
Yes.
in every single prayer, my darling, every single prayer is because I say how I feel. And I wrote this book during the pandemic when I was very distraught, because I'm an extrovert, and I'm a Greek extrovert, which makes me a triple extrovert. Being with people, and I love connecting. And if I have too many gaps with not connecting, I start to shrink. So I'm an extrovert. So during the pandemic, you can only imagine how I suffered. I was with my family and I was writing this book, but I wrote a prayer to God, and out of a chapter, which is one of my favorite chapters in the book, called How to Find the Extraordinary in the Ordinary. And I talk to the beloved in me, and I invite you all to know your belovedness is to love yourself unconditionally. It is not anything mystical. It is not anything that you have to go to a huge retreat or silent meditations to find it. You can call it right now and say, there is a force in me that loves me, and I call that the beloved. One of the greatest joys in my life, dear beloved, is feeling your presence as I connect with others by speaking, inviting other people to participate in my heart's expansion. Recently, I've been feeling the absence of my connection with you, and I feel I'm lacking in that magic from which I converge with my spirit. Because for me, before the pandemic, I was speaking everywhere. I was speaking to thousands of people in conferences, in groups, and I was speaking about joy and love and unbinding the heart. And my last book, Wake Up to the Joy of You, would absolutely sell out after every conference. Everybody hugged me, everybody cried, everybody danced. It was a love fest. And suddenly all that was gone, Leslie, gone, gone, gone. So I then prayed and I said, I ask that I may find new ways to engage, move my body, be present in the miracle of my life, and awaken to the aliveness that I have in me. I ask that I may remove the resistance, the limitation, the stubbornness of wanting things to be a certain way. So that is the allowing, Leslie. That is the exhaling the way things are that I don't like. So you exhale it and you come into acceptance. And that's the peace. That is prayer. It's saying, I don't like this right now, but I can accept it. And so I go on and I say, instead, I ask that I may again find the magic, because I'm looking for the magic. So for whatever reason, my ego and my sense of self move into righteous indignation, and God forbid I might miss the awe that I so seek in the simplest of things. The trees still grow upward, and I'm able to walk on this earth through the law of gravity, and even that is a miracle. So I started to look at the trees, Leslie, and I went, oh my God, these trees are magical because they are there and they will be there after I die. I mean, these are the trees, but I take for granted. The earth right now that you and I are talking, this earth, this little planet earth moves around the sun in perfect motion. And how amazing is that? It's moving slowly. You and I are not moving, we're still, but the earth is moving, the planets are moving. There are invisible words of millions of stars and planets that are all moving in perfect relation to one another, and they don't seem to collide. Can we all take a moment to be in reverence of the miracle of the universe? The ocean meets the shore in perfect rhythm, even when it's turbulent and stormy. Let me wrap my mind around all of that and know that I too have perfect harmony within me, and I can love and overcome the conditions of my life with the unconditionality of spirit.
Beautiful. Now I want to ask you something, and it's directly relevant to what you were just talking about. You were speaking about how hard that was for you during COVID. I cannot imagine being a triple extrovert and then having lockdown. Bless your heart. And yet here you are, you survived it. On the other side, or almost on the other side of a global pandemic, and we're seeing unrest all around the world, and people are experiencing so much loss and so much hopelessness and so much uncertainty.
So much.
A great deal of fear about the future. I hear it daily, as I'm sure you do as well.
Yes.
Do you believe that prayer can be useful in helping people to regain some of their balance, regain some of their trust, and potentially even regain some of the zest for life that somehow got put on the back shelf during the last couple of years?
Absolutely, 100%. You know, what happens is that the struggle we have when we see our fellow humans suffer, and we suffer in our own ways, but we also suffer for them, can get us to cave in. But I remember there is a dear friend of mine, Zainab Salbi, who created an organization called Women for Women in third world countries, and went all around the world and helped women who were victims of war. Women, she did a book of women who had been so demoralized by the horrificness of war, deformed in their faces, in their homes. The children saw their husbands killed. I mean, the horrificness of war. And this woman created an organization to help these women restore themselves, find financial independence. And I asked her one day, and I said, Zainab, how is it? And she does actually have a beautiful podcast right now called Redefined. She's one of my dearest friends. And I said, Zainab, how is it that you stay in your joy? And I see you with these women and you are smiling and you are glowing. She said, because Agapi, if I don't remind them of what is possible for them to have again, if I cave in with them and I cry with them, I will be doing them a disservice. But Agapi,
precisely.
If I stay in my joy, in my peace, if I hold their hands and say, let us forgive what happened, let us rise into our peace right now and really relish what we have. So I say to everyone, please, if you are feeling despondent about anything in yourself, in other people, as you pray, you restore yourself to your wholeness, because your soul is whole, your spirit is whole, you know? And so what we are asking is, take the part of you that is, you know, that hurts, that is wounded, the part of you that suffers for others, and please bring the healing and your love and your heart, the balm of your loving. And so you return to you and your joy and your fullness, and then you become a gift and affect the whole vibration. I mean, you know, when you are in a
Exactly.
room or you are in a store and you walk in and you're smiling and you are, buying something, and you connect with the cashier and you connect maybe with the person behind you, and you have a little moment of connection, or you are at the baristas at the coffee shop and you say hi, or you go to the park and your dog plays with other dogs, and you interact, how you lift each other's spirits.
Absolutely. And one of the things I really appreciate, Agapi, is the way you referenced forgiveness, because I have long maintained that forgiveness has absolutely nothing to do with the person we're forgiving. It just has to do with lifting that heaviness out of our own hearts.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That is my chapter 51, which I hope everybody will read, because it's an amazing story of when my father asked my mother for forgiveness. And so I ask you all, if you have anyone in your life that you are holding grudges for, little or big, you can just ask that I may move into the presence and bring the presence of the parts of me that hurt and are ruminating into the old judgments. And just asking that, and I encourage you to write down your own prayers, to write down the words. I ask that I bring forgiveness to judgments of the person and judgments of myself for my inability to control this person or the situation. So it's not, Leslie, that we judge others because of what they did or did not do to us, or what they gave us or didn't give us, but it is also judging ourselves for judging them and feeling there's something wrong with me because they left me, or they didn't leave me any money, or because my landlord raised the rent, or my boss didn't give me a raise, or fired, or it's endless, the things
whatever it is.
Whatever it is, we judge ourselves. There's something wrong with me. And I lived like that for a very long time, when my career wasn't happening, where the projects I was trying were not happening. And as I say, I found the spirit, I found the light. And then you think, well, now I did, everything is going to be happily ever after. But on the contrary, everything after that was putting me through the risk and the fire and the asking and the putting one foot in front of the other. Because my friends, when you pray with intention and conviction, your prayers have feet. They take you places. How do you think I wrote this book? Because I prayed and then sat down or walked or dictated, and word after word, I had, 1,200 words today. That's good. 2,000 words today. That's good. Before you knew it, I had a book. But I did every day. I prayed and wrote. I prayed and wrote. In the midst of my, I can't do this, and I can't do another chapter. I don't know what to write. I kept saying, okay, you don't know what to write, but I do. So challenge the part of you that says, I don't know how to do this. I'm scared. I don't know. I'm afraid. I don't want to ask. What if they say no? Well, let them say no, because every no leads you to your yes.
That is always the truth. That is always, always the truth. I'd like to ask you, Agapi, since we're talking about your beautiful book of prayer, and you're speaking to our listeners about encouraging them to pray, how do you define prayer?
Prayer is really giving you the awareness in the moment that you're always connected. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
Because in truth, you're always connected. Right now, I'm in New York City and it's cloudy. The sun is there, but it's overcast. The same way, God, your soul, your spirit, your presence, the part of you that loves you and gives you life is always there.
Yes. You write that God is not a being, but a state of being.
Don't you love that?
Yes. As a fact, I do.
Yeah, and my spiritual teacher, John Rogers, said, heaven is not a location, it is a vibration that in order to get there, we have to slow down the mind, the emotions, and the physicality of the mental, emotional, physical world,
Yes.
come into a higher vibration, which is through stillness. That's why people go to the mountains, because when you're in the mountains, you start to feel the connection, right? I've
Yes.
never had anybody go on top of a mountain, climb up, and say, "Oh, there's nothing there."
Oh,
You-
that was all okay, but I've seen better. No, you don't do that.
No, exactly. You feel connected. And
Yes.
essentially, there is no phones, there is no distractions. There is you and the fabulous, amazing vistas, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's how I define prayer. And it's every moment. You know, my mother used to say, I pray, I connect, and I give my full attention when I'm doing the dishes, when I'm cooking, when I'm with someone. Right now, 100% present with you and our listeners. So nothing else exists but this moment. To me, that is prayer.
I could not agree more. Because the only place anything happens is in the moment.
Exactly. Exactly. I have a whole chapter that I absolutely love, and it's called "You Are Bigger Than Your Fear." And I said that to the Today Show. I said, you know, please, when you get the book, everybody go and read chapter 25. You're bigger than your fear. And now I have people emailing me everywhere. Says I wake up and I feel the fear, and I go, I'm bigger than the fear. I'm bigger than the fear. I think that will make a great children's story.
Oh, I think that would make an amazing children's story to teach them early on that are bigger than any fears that they will have, because we all have them throughout our lives.
Yes, and I mean, Leslie, here's the thing. We have them. Some people are paralyzed by it,
Yes.
and some people manage it, and some people hear it and they don't give it credence. You don't infuse it.
Yes.
You don't feed it.
Yes.
You know, and you know that
And
great.
some people, they may be going along and dealing with it very well for a while, and then something particular, something crucial happens, and then they get paralyzed for a moment when it is not their tradition.
Yes, exactly. And so I love this line that says, show me how to transform my fear into trust and my insecurity into confidence. Show me how to transform my scared voice into my sacred voice.
That's elegant.
It's elegant.
It's
So
elegant.
I encourage you to read these prayers as a template to situations in your life, but at the same time, like, you know, I love this amazing chapter called How to Navigate Being an Empath, because an empath takes on everybody's suffering and
Yes, they
wants
do.
to feel bonded. But you know,
Until they learn to not.
yeah, you can be you can be compassionate about other people's sufferings. You can, you know, if you're full in your own energy and in your own loving, it's gonna flow to others.
Yes.
But thinking that we are responsible for other people's happiness, don't you think it's such an error, and it's such
I completely, yes,
it's an energy sucker,
it is.
you know? I mean,
And it's also a little bit narcissistic that we're so important that we can take care of their lives and ours at the same time. Don't you find?
Absolutely. You can send them light. You can have conversations with people and say, here's, if I was in your place, this is what I would do. How can I support you? How can I listen to you? Listening to people is the most healing thing you can do.
It truly is. People are thirsting to death to be heard.
Yes, and they're shy. They feel, oh, you don't have time for me. Or if I say this to you, you will judge me, you know, if I tell
Yes.
you what I'm really feeling. So
Yes.
I
And so
say,
they don't speak and they don't share what they need to share. And then they get bound up.
exactly.
They need a place to be able to speak their truth and just have someone hear them, and not. One of my teachers gave me a great a great thing to remember many, many years ago. He said, always when you're listening to someone, ask yourself, am I fixing
Mm.
or am I hearing?
Well, that's beautiful. I love that. I just love that. That is so beautiful. And I think we all suffer from the perfectionism obsession. We want to be perfect. We don't, and that stops us from being spontaneous and being in the spirit. And I have a beautiful chapter in the book where I talk about how to let go of your illusion that you have to be perfect in order to be heard. It's an imprisonment. We imprison ourselves.
It is. And I think it is, I think it's gone viral through our society. It's another viral intruder that has had impact. And I really appreciated that you addressed that within your wonderful book.
I understand that my perfectionism was born out of a need for survival at a certain time in my life when I believed that if I was perfect, I could control a world that in my childhood was out of control. If I was perfect, I would be okay. I had that as a child. I created a character called Anna, and she was perfect. And it really suffocated me because this free child that really wanted to express. And,
I had it long past childhood, long past childhood, that perfectionist syndrome, until I realized it was choking the life out of my life.
Well, that's the voice of perfection, the voice of criticism, the voice of, I call it the mother superior in us.
That is absolutely spot on.
Be like that. Don't be like that. Don't do that. Don't dress like that.
Yes.
Don't say that. Say that. So you go to get your mother superior and get her a ticket to the Aegean, the Caribbean. Get her on that never comes back.
That's right. It's only a one-way ticket.
And you're even a critic.
One-way ticket. Agapi, this has been delightful, absolutely delightful. And
so much.
As we come to a close, I want to be sure and tell the listeners, now I'm going to do for you what I always do for you. You know I love doing this.
Yes.
In the program notes, I will have Agapi's contact information. I will have her links to her books. I will have everything that she wants to share with you right there in the program notes. So you don't have to go searching for it.
Beautiful.
When you go there, click, like, subscribe, and share, and leave a message for Agapi, because as those of you who have been with us for a while know, when you leave a message for a guest, our team does send it on to them and they get to interact with you. So be sure to do that.
Also
as we're getting ready to close out here, Agapi, I'd like to ask you, what would you like to leave our audience with today?
Well, first of all, I'm going to give everybody my email.
That'll be in the program notes.
Yes, Agapi at bindingtheheart.com. And if you send me an email, I'll send you as a gift my guided meditations. I have about 10 that I send as a gift. And you can download them all on Audible. My books, all my books are on Audible, so you can download them. And of course, you'll put my website, wakeuptothejoyofyou.com, and follow me on Instagram. I always like to say Agapi Sees, which I love that name, Agapi Sees, and then I share it with you. But what I love to leave you with is the last prayer in the book. Actually, it's not the last prayer in the book. It's almost chapter 50, which is living with a sense of timelessness. And I feel that we are all suffer from this pressure of time. So I would like to read you just a small passage that says, "Dear beloved, I feel the pressure and the panic of time going by. I feel that I don't even have time to have a moment with you. So my friends, take a deep breath, exhale, and let's together accept that our heart longs to experience a sense of timelessness. So right now, feel that you're above time. To know that in the constraints of your mind and the physical world, You can still attune to the universal clock that has a rhythm, a pace, like the river of life that flows and knows its direction. So I ask that we may open our minds to know the timelessness of our existence. And in the midst of your doings and your actions and your to-do lists and all the demands of your life, I ask that all of us be filled with a rhythm that the universe has so brilliantly and intelligently constructed, just as the planets turn on their axis in their own time. May you become connected to the divine timing of your life. And may you have peace that reigns all things be reinstated in you right now. And I call forward this light. I call forward this presence for all who are listening right now to supersede your thoughts, your emotions. Open your heart and let it overtake you. And as you become of an observer, become less of a warrior. I'm grateful for allowing this in my life. I'm grateful to know that there is another way. And I ask that day by day, I'm redirected to move into the natural flow of my spirit, that I am redirected to move into the natural flow of my spirit. I thank you. So be it. God bless you. May you walk with spirit every day and moment of your life, and let that spirit fill you to capacity and overflow.
Thank you for that, Agapi. And we are out of time. So for all of you out there, be sure and go and check into our program notes. And remember, as you go through the rest of your day, you are smarter, stronger, and wiser than you know.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.